Quail log March 29th, 2023. So I just finished feeding the quail and I went through and added more water into the watering section here for section A. Eggs look like they're all in there good. I have not gotten any warnings about temperature today. Top currently shows 99.5 and 53%. Might be a little high, but I've been finding the humidity has been showing about 2% higher than what the Yo-Link has been showing. So I'm guessing that's about right, but we'll see if I end up having too much humidity or if I do something wrong with that. So the one nice thing is that since I do water cooling on my PC, I have this bottle for filling up my water or the my watering tubes on my PC. Makes it really nice is that I can stick that little tube into the little hole there and fill it up until it's almost at the top. So that's not too bad. Currently in here it is 72 degrees and 37% humidity. So humidity is down a little bit. It's not too bad. So hopefully I should be able to keep everything up there. Today was not a great day for eggs. So I got 3 from my fancy feathers and only 2 from my Pharaohs. That's a little better or a little worse than last night, because last night I got 4. I had 2 when I was setting up the incubator, and I got 2 while I was right after I recorded the video, and I put all of those into the incubator, so I ended up with 27 eggs in the incubator, or not just 25, or I ended up with 28. I have to go back and look and see exactly how many, but so I put every egg that they laid for 7 days into there. Everyone seems to be all right in here. I'm not seeing any real issues today. I've seen all 7 heads out and eating on this level, and I had seen all 4 heads here out and eating. And Black has been trying, and sometimes she gets her food and sometimes she doesn't. I guess I should explain what has been going on, and or at least try to give a little bit of an explanation on it. So as you can see, the setup is still very similar to how it was at the middle of December. What happened after that is that I had hernia surgery on the 23rd of December, so that put me out for a couple weeks of having other people taking care of or helping take care of the birds. They actually did really a good job of making sure they always had plenty of food, plenty of water, and were collecting the eggs. But at the beginning of January, we lost one of our cats, and so that was a little hard to deal with, but at the same time, and the whole family was dealing with it, and by then I was feeling at least good enough that I started taking care of the birds again. Then middle of January, end of the second week is what I want to say is when it happened. I was trying to get too many things done. I came down, collected eggs, made sure they had food, but I forgot to check on the water. Came down the next night and found that the water was all the way down as far to the bottom of the valve that lets the water down into the tubes down below, and I found that all 3 levels were totally out of water, and I'm guessing the bottom 2 levels had been out of water or possibly the entire day. At that point, and I got water into it, made sure that water was coming through all the different levels for where all the different birds were, because at that point I had separated the males out from the females. So I think at the top level at that point was all Pharaoh, or the younger Pharaohs, those with one cage having the male in it, the other cage having the, or no, actually at the top at that point, and all the fancy feathers were on the top. Up the younger Pharaohs were in the middle, and my older birds were at the very bottom. For the at that point, I still had Black separated out on the top, I believe, and it had the other fancies on their own. In the middle layer, I had the male separated out, and all of the female, or the three Pharaohs sitting in their section, in a section, and I had all my older Pharaoh girls in the bottom. Next day, after getting in the water, came down to find that two of the Pharaoh girls were not doing well, were very sluggish, were barely moving, so, and were not able to reach up and drink from the water up top. So I ended up moving in the male into a cage. I moved each of the females into their own cage with watering containers in them, hopefully and hoping they would drink out of it. I ended up having a male. I think he ended up going into the dog crate, and so I moved everyone around trying to see who I could save, who was really bad. By the next evening, I had lost two of the Pharaoh girls. They just never survived, and by morning, and even though I tried to get them to drink, they were never able to get them to drink. And so I ended up losing two of the Pharaoh girls that way. With all this, I was trying to move birds around, trying to find enough cages for everyone. I tried putting in black back in with the other ones, and I tried waiting until after lights out when it was nice and dark. Then I moved black up with the other girls. They somewhat functioned together. I wasn't seeing it, and no one was really getting picked on hard, or I wasn't noticing any real issues right away. So I left them that way for a couple days, and then I started noticing that the fancy feather girls were getting picked on again. And at this point, I still had the male separated out, so I knew the male wasn't overbreeding them. And these weren't just losing feathers on the back of the head; they were losing feathers on the side of the head, all over the neck. And it was all of them. So I ended up separating in black back out again, and just to see if it was as black, because I hadn't had any problems with them for the month and a half that black had been separated out while she was healing from when she had her head injuries. The one thing that I started, and I was getting eggs from black and all of the other three, so I was getting 3 or 4 eggs a day from them. So I didn't think it was too bad, but at the same time I didn't know. So black got separated out to her own cage. So I had a cage for one Pharaoh female, one male Pharaoh male, and then black was in a cage in the middle layer, and then I think I had the male fancy feathers, and then the feathers into their own cage. In the bottom layer was all my older girls. After a couple weeks of that, I decided that I didn't want just one female by herself, and I couldn't really put a male in with a single female. So I waited until after lights out, waited about an hour, and then I put the one female down with the other Pharaoh girls. Came down the next morning, watched the videos coming from my Wise cameras. Couldn't see that there'd been any real issues. When they woke up in the morning, they kind of woke up and said hi, and didn't really realize that there was a new bird in with them. Never really saw any fighting from them, so that was when I at least got the girl reintroduced with the other Pharaohs, so that I didn't have just one bird all by herself. About this time is when black stopped laying eggs. I was getting maybe one a week for a while. And was still having some issues with it, but I was hoping that it was just she was having problems recovering, and because she had more feathers pulled out. But I was starting to notice some of the issues, like she doesn't seem to be able to find her way through the front fence very well, and she doesn't. The way she pecks at stuff is really bad. And also, I'd noticed she was becoming very aggressive with a Pharaoh male, which was in the cage right next to hers. They would sit there and fight each other or through the bars, and black was always going after him. I kind of hoped that it was just that she was that aggressive, and maybe putting her in with the other birds might work. So I had tried adding, and I'd added the male back in at the end of February. Yeah, I guess it was middle to end of February, I added the male fancy feather back in with the females, and that was seeming to work. So I added in black with them to see if they could all work together. They worked in the morning and were doing just fine, but in the afternoon when I was working at home, I started noticing, or no, black was doing okay until I did supper time, and as soon as I put feed out, black started attacking all the other birds. And so at that point it was one of those, because black wasn't really not laid an egg, was laying maybe one egg a week. To me it was when I was going to remove her from the rest of them and put her into her own cage. And because it's only one bird, I can't bring myself to calling just one bird. So right now black is on the list to, when I do finally the eggs hatch and I get meat birds, black will probably be called with, or will be called with them. Right now I'm just basically feeding her enough to keep her alive. She hasn't laid an egg in over a month at this point, so she's basically, it looks like there's brain damage. I'm not sure she's seeing very well. I'm not sure she hears very well, and I think that's why she's food aggressive and just not worth keeping around. But one bird is, I don't want to just, I'll keep her around for the meat, but I'm not, at this point, she's not worth keeping. I guess part of the reason that I haven't made any videos is because I feel responsible for the fact that the last two almost died on me, and I kind of feel responsible that black I didn't take care of as well as I could have, and I don't think she's surviving and very well. So that means that out of the ones that I got in October, I've lost 3 of those birds, and one of them is not doing very well. So I don't feel like it did the best with this last set, but I've also found that having males, there's a lot more problems with it. Just having the 6 females or that I originally had, they were a whole lot easier to deal with. I only lost the one, and that was much later on. And I think it's just that Green laid the biggest eggs of all the girls, and I think it just stressed over that one egg, and that was all there was to it. So I'm kind of happy that to begin with, I only lost one, but I'm amazed at how since October I have managed to lose another 3 and have one that is fairly screwed up. So it's not where I expected to be at this point, but at least my Pharaohs seem to be doing well. The boy was reintroduced with the females at night, and they've been accepting him. And at least there's been no fighting. I don't see him mounting all the older girls as much as he did when it was the other Pharaohs of his age, but he is getting to mount all of them. And so I'm hoping that all the eggs that I have in the incubator will be fertile, and we'll at least get some quail out of it. I don't know what I'm going to get, but we'll see from there. Some of what happened this winter made me question whether I was going to even do the incubating and trying to raise from eggs or not. And I finally decided that was my original goal, is that this April I was going to try the raise eggs, and so that's where I'm at. And I found this last year, as I said, up until October when I got the new birds, it's taking care of my quail was very easy. I really had no problems. They weren't really picking on each other, didn't have any problems with feathers. Since October, I've went through a lot more issues and having to deal with the things like the fact that several of my birds don't have all their feathers, and I don't know exactly why. They've been doing the same feed. I've accounted it as being winter, but I don't know. So I don't know if I'm doing everything right or how many things I'm doing wrong, but at least I'm trying, and we'll see where it goes from here. But I do feel responsible for them and making sure that they're getting the best life that they can so that they can provide me eggs, and hopefully they'll be able to provide meat birds in the future. So I'm trying what I can, and we'll deal with it as it happens. It's just definitely interesting when you are responsible for keeping them alive and having to think about everything that goes on, and thinking about, okay, can I go a little bit longer without feeding them? Can I go a little bit longer without making sure there's water? And I'm getting to the point that I realize I've got to make sure there's always food in the trays. Oh. And I've also made sure that if the water is over half full, well, if it's getting to be under half full, I'm filling it. So those are some of the things I've learned in the last few months that I need to make sure that I do every time. And let's see, is there anything else I've learned over the past year? I've learned to enjoy the birds, such as just sitting here where I sit over here, and what you're seeing right now is what I sit and watch for a while. I usually don't talk to them as much. It's a lot of times just watching and seeing what they do, and it's interesting hearing them sing at times, or hearing the boys crow a little bit. So it's definitely been a good year, but the last few months have been definitely stressful in taking care of them and trying to make sure that they have the best quality of life that they can have while they're living with me. So, but at least that's where I'm at for now, and that's part of why I haven't been posting as much, is that I kind of felt bad for neglecting them or not taking care of them as well as I could. And so a lot of times it's been focusing on making sure that they get the things they need, and I haven't been taking the time to video them. But now that I'm incubating, I'm going to be trying to do at least every couple of days, especially as I do any changes or notice anything. I'm definitely going to be recording that, so that I just even have it for myself to know where I was and what it has been happening so far. But so that's kind of it for this Quail log this week. It's a little more, but it's giving an update of what's happened and where I'm currently at, and hopefully I'll keep this up and I'll give you more information. All right.